Good afternoon, everyone. It's just past 3:30 local time here in Barcelona, and we are getting ourselves ready for race one of the TCR Europe finale, the final rounds of what has been a long season of touring cars' very best action. Temperatures have slightly increased since this morning's qualifying session, just shy of 20 degrees, and the humidity has dropped, although if you look at the mountains, certainly not far away from the circuit. There are some cloud bursts around, but I don't think they'll be troubling us this afternoon. We do have a slight delay in proceedings thanks to a previous delay at the track, and so we've got plenty of time to build up the race one entry list with quite a few new names. Giacomo Germandi is the first of our new names on our entry list. We also look down at Klim Gavrilov, who has got himself a Cupra this weekend in teammate to Evgeny Leonov and Mikhail Ashkonar. Felipe Fernandez replaces his brother Ruben Fernandez in the 19 RC2 Cupra. And further down that list are basically drivers that we usually see in the TCR Europe category. A few more names on our second page though, including that of Sergio Lopez, who we saw last time out in Monza. He joined us and he's here again with us, the Macedonian, sorry, not the Macedonian, in the Cupra as well for our C2, who is a very local team. Actually, they didn't really even need a truck to get their cars to the circuit, such as their location. They are from Barcelona as well. Here is another Spaniard who is the star of the show for TCR Europe. No practice yesterday, came here and on his very first lap was the fastest man on circuit. Mikhail Ashkonar looking to wrap up the championship. That would be his second TCR Europe title after his victory in 2018. Ashkonar starts on the pole position, and his championship rival Franco Girolami, with an outside chance of holding on to the championship, starts at the very tail of the field. A water pump issue for the Honda during the first part of qualifying means he starts at the very back. And there are two spots also not occupied in front of him. One is Gilles Colombani, not quite sure why Gilles is not quite there yet, but also Dusan Borkovic, who seems to have an engine issue with his Audi, not fixable, and therefore he will not partake at all during this weekend. Last time we saw Sami Taufik here in Barcelona, it was his very best weekend in last year's championship. He took a second and third here in Barcelona in effectively what is his home circuit. He was actually born in Barcelona, and therefore, although carries the Moroccan flag on his car, does have a Spanish nationality as well. Clear track ahead of him, second on the grid. Teddy Claret, third on the grid. And Teddy very happy to have weight off of that Peugeot. The balance of performance favouring the Peugeot once more, like we saw in Paul Ricard. Can he get himself into the mix of things today? Starting third position. Maybe he could disturb that fight at the front. What about Nicolas Bart? I think he could have been on the front row of the grid had it not been for a little error at the final chicane. There seemed to be some fluid down apparently at the final chicane, maybe from Franco Girolami's car. Bart hit that and got a little bit of oversteer, which compromised his lap. One man that should be very happy with his performance was Martin Rieber. Best of the Hondas, best of the brutal fishes, and fifth on the grid. He is fighting for the Diamond Cup title alongside Viktor Davidovski. Davidovski way down the field. Martin Rieber will start right in the center of things for both of our races. Nils Lagerveld would like to get himself third in the championship. He was third in TCR Germany a couple of years ago, and he fancies himself the chance of overcoming his fellow countryman Tom Coronel and getting himself third in the championship here. Mehdi Benani is our outgoing TCR champion from 2020, where he piloted an Audi for Come To You Racing. Switched to Sebastian Loeb Racing in the brand new Elantra. They didn't do any testing at the start of the year. They've been learning that car, and this should be a good place for that car as long as they've got the setup correct. Jack Young's got a heavy Honda after his performance last time out in Monza, and therefore not a bad qualifying position. Just ahead of his Honda teammate at Brutal Fish, Isidro Kayash, who effectively took over Pepe Oriola's seat at that team last year. There is Isidro, who's got plenty of experience around this Barcelona circuit. Another Spaniard as part of our entry list. And maybe a slightly disappointing qualifying session for the young Spaniard. We've seen really good performances out of him across the year. Hasn't quite got his maiden win yet. But what about Klim Gavrilov? I've been really impressed with the second half of the season from Gavrilov. When he was in the Audi, he switched to the Cupra, and he lines up on 10th position today. That means pole position tomorrow. That could be very interesting when we don't have Ashkenar in the grid and Girolami is at the tail of the field. Oh, Volcano really wanted Leonov to be just one step higher, and then they might have had a 1-2 for race 2, but unfortunately Leonov starting 11th today. He'll also start 11th tomorrow. But this again, a circuit that he knows well from his time in TCR Spain, where he absolutely dominated, and the team obviously local and know the track as well. Jimmy Claire was very unhappy with qualifying, had the pace to be up there with Teddy, but unfortunately quite a few drivers had their best laps taken away for track limits, including Jimmy, and therefore Jimmy ends himself down as the slowest of our Q2 qualifiers. Not really reflective of his pace. Look at that car, Sergio Lopez, second time here in win TCR Europe, thanks to RC2 for bringing their two cars to the last two rounds. We hope to see RC2 in a full campaign next year, and they do really livery up their cars beautifully. Joachim Galash for Yannick Motorsport in the i30, the older of the Hyundais, himself and Matto Homola this season, and Yannick have got on top of that car. We saw Galash best finish a 5th position. Tom Coronel with lots of oversteer in qualifying his first laps in this car this weekend. Of course, switching from the new Audi RS3 that he's racing this weekend in Most in the Czech Republic to the older version here, and found the transition not quite as easy. Felice Yelmini is the only Sebastian Loeb Racing Elantra to have weight after he was very successful in Barcelona in qualifying, and therefore has been struggling with that weight in the sessions so far, and had a bit of a head scratch in FP2 as well. Matto Homola has a race win to his name. He didn't get a chance to stand on the top step of the podium because he was gifted it last time out in Monza's race 2, but he did stand on the second step of the podium, his second time on the podium this year, and great to have him there, but not many cars behind. Davidovsky has lots and lots of times taken away due to track limit infringements, and he's got a big ask if he's going to get anywhere near his diamond rival, Martin Rieber. Poussier also part of the diamond category in the older style Seat or Cupra, and it looks as though his teammate Colombani is not joining us, I'm afraid, so another driver to miss out. We've got Fernandez behind Sylvain Poussier. Dusan Borkovic not on the grid either. Then Giacomo Germandi and Franco Girolami at the very tail of the field. The engines fire into life, and they will be relatively careful on their tyres on this warm-up lap, because whilst they need to get temperature into the rear of the tyres, and it's quite easy to get temperature in the front of the tyres, it is a pretty hard track on that front left, especially turn 3 and then the later part of the lap, turn 12, 13. And so they need to be careful not to push too hard on this lap to overheat the tyres when it comes to the end of the race. Onto the warm-up lap then. The gap in the championship between Michael Ashkiner and Franco Girolami, 70 points. We've got 80 points on offer from race 1 today and race 2 tomorrow, but Michael Ashkiner's plan is not to be here tomorrow. He wants to go back to Most and to get himself up into the championship contention of the world TCR, and therefore Ashkiner needs maximum points out of this one and not to DNF. If he does DNF, Franco Girolami still needs to get himself a decent haul of points to bring the gap down to 40. In fact, Franco Girolami needs to get into 3rd position to bring the gap down to 40 points, and that could be a tall ask in itself. The grid rolling through underneath. Jack Young fighting for the junior category championship. But as I said, laden with 60 kilos of ballast on the Honda could be a big ask. That is the fight for the championship then. Franco Girolami at the tail of the field, Michael Ashkiner at the front of the field. The objective is not to be here tomorrow for Ashkiner. There's 150 Cupra guests all hanging on Michael, celebrating tonight. Quickly, of course, because he'll be then rushing off to Barcelona airport, jumping on the plane and getting back to Most, where he has pole position, don't forget, also for WTCR tomorrow afternoon. Coronel will be doing the same thing. He's not really fighting for much here. Yes, he'll try and get as many points as possible, but he's already dropping 2 scores, Coronel, as is his rival for that second in the championship, Niels Langeveld, and there is only a very small difference between the two of them. So really, Langeveld is on course for that 3rd position. Jimmy Claret with an outside chance, Mehdi Benani with an outside chance of getting into that 3rd spot as well. Slightly different corner, this one they're coming to now from what they experienced last year. There is the car of Gilles Colombani with a problem coming to the grid, and therefore sadly will not take any further part in the race. That one corner was the head scratcher for Ashkiner as he went out to the circuit. He took a look at it, worked out where you needed to place the car, and then straight onto the fastest lap time at that point in qualifying, having not practiced in FP1 or in FP2. And he basically stayed atop the standings throughout the 2 sessions. He even didn't give himself many chances to do a fast lap either in Q2 because he needs to scrub in some tyres for this race. Sami Taufik, 2nd position, as I say, was not off the podium last year when we came here in Catalonia. By far his best results of the 2020 season. It was the only time, I think, we saw Sami Taufik on the podium all year last year. Could he repeat that again today? We have seen Taufik on the podium this year. His 3rd spot in Paul Ricard race 2 was his best result of the season. A nice, healthy grid of TCR cars lining up for race 1 here in Barcelona. The green flag flies at the tail of the field, and we're ready to go racing. A short hold and a very good start from Michael Ashkiner. Not a good start from 3rd position from Teddy Claret, and he's going to fall back further. Jakim Galash also being swamped further back. We've got a yellow flag flying for somebody who was not running particularly fast, who stalled. Can't see it underneath me as they come down to the 1st turn then. It was Lopez who stalled, and Ashkiner clear at the head of the field. Sami Taufik has been passed by Teddy Claret. They've all got through turn 2 safely, although that Jakim Galash has fallen into the clutches of his teammate Matto Homela. So Ashkiner, then Claret, then Taufik, then Bart, and then a gaggle of brutal fish cars. That must be Martin Rieber ahead of Kayas. Oh, there's a car off in the gravel trap at turn 3. Heard a little smash. I wonder who that was. And it's getting very congested in the mid part of the field. Jimmy Claret trying to make up some ground as well in his Peugeot. But who was it who we've lost? I can't tell at the moment. There was one car definitely in the gravel at turn 3, and now down to the 3rd the end of the second sector, we'll have more of an idea of exactly who is missing. At the back, here comes Felice Jelmini down the inside. Matteo Homler, oh, punched on Coronel sideways, and Coronel gets spun around. Jelmini was not concentrating on Coronel whatsoever. He was much more interested in getting past Matteo Homler. And could it be Franco Girolami? Oh, Fernandez in the gravel. I think Franco Girolami might have been the car in the gravel. And yes, damage also to Felice Jelmini. Not a surprise, it was a big hit under the tail of Coronel. Coronel's going to have a big old dent in his door. And over the line for the first time. Ashkana leads, Claire second, Taufik third, Bart, Langveld, Martin Rieber, Kayas, Banani, Young. The cars that we are dropping down the field with, Lopez, Jelmini, Fernandez, and Girolami only making up one position. There he is through the shot. So whoever it was who went off at turn 3 did actually recover pretty quickly. But there was certainly somebody kicking up the gravel and the dirt on the outside. Now, question mark, will we need a safety car? Because Fernandez is off in the gravel trap at 11, and yes, we will. Safety car has been deployed. And that is to recover Jelmini's car. We don't have the kind of big cranes that you might see in a Formula 1 race. So he's going to be pulled out by a 4x4 from the gravel trap. And therefore, to do that, we need safety car to neutralize the field. It's not going to take long, but we do have 2 cars off, of course, because there is Jelmini's car as well. Don't suspect there's much damage to Fernandez's car. He just spun around and into the gravel, but Jelmini's could be a little bit more tricky. It's going to have heavy damage to the right front corner of that car because it was a big hit into Coronel. This will be good for everybody to preserve their tyres. A little bit of a respite. Remember, we will add on a couple of laps for every lap that we do under safety car conditions. So here's a replay at the start then. What's happened? You can see there's Lopez stalled at the back of the field. Initially, yeah, a bit too much wheel spin from Claire, but obviously on the changing up of the gears, yeah, it looks as though Sami Taufik was very lazy in the Elantra on the left-hand side there. And in the second phase of that start, Claire just had the better momentum, didn't he? Going into the first turn, and was happily turning into turn 1 in second position. Martin Rieber running alongside Niels Langeveld there. I think Rieber just lost out to him. And then, yes, there was nobody off in the background at turn 3. We heard something. Yeah, there we go. That was who it was. It was Franco Girolami, who was wide at turn 4, not turn 3. And so Girolami did make an error on the very, very first lap, and that's why he didn't recover many positions. It was disappointing for Jelmini there. Nothing much he could have really done, I don't think. And I wonder what kind of damage Coronel's car has on the left rear, because it was a big old hit. And of course, Jelmini now, oh yeah, broken steering straight away. You can see, oh, and it was him that put Fernandez into the gravel as well. Nothing he could have done because he couldn't steer the car, but Jelmini is certainly going to be visiting our stewards, that's for sure. Now, where is Coronel? Here he is through the shot, but that's going to be the wrong side of the car. I really want to see the left side, so this will probably give us a better idea, but no, the cameraman is panning somebody else. Now, because the steering is bent on that right front, it's not going to be so easy to remove that car. So I think now I can see that there's a flatbed truck heading up to Felice Jelmini, and therefore we are going to have a couple of laps more under safety car whilst we lift Jelmini's car off the track rather than tow it. It don't drag. That's why he couldn't drive it. Let's see if we can pick up Coronel. Here he comes through shot now. Doesn't look too bad, actually, Coronel's door. I'm surprised by that. It will be on this left side. Here he comes through the shot now. It's fine that side. It looks as though he hasn't been hit at all. It must have been bang on wheel-to-wheel contact between Jelmini and the rear end of Coronel's car, because it was that side, it was the left rear as he turned in. Now, what's going on? No, that's just an illusion. That's Gavrilov comes through the shot. There is Franco Girolami at the tail end of the field. Look, absolutely no damage. Unbelievable. I wonder whether his towing arm is on the rear of the car is bent though, because it would have massive hit, but transferred all that load straight through the axles and the suspension. So I can see from my commentary position that Jelmini's car has now been dragged one direction, and I think he's going to be towed off the circuit backwards so that the loader has not got to him. Here is the Jelmini down the inside of Hommler, and basically didn't take into consideration there might be somebody on the outside of him, but the impact was wheel to wheel, and therefore no damage at all to the bodywork of Coronel, and it bent the suspension of Jelmini. Brakes there, Jelmini has no steering and puts Fernandez into the gravel, who has a little bit of damage to the rear end of his car, but the recovery vehicles are not doing a particularly good job of getting Felice Jelmini's car off the circuit here. They don't really want to drag it like that because of the damage to the steering. Now, from what I can see of the commentary box position, that flatbed truck has actually headed off to Fernandez, so it's picking up the other car. And so, unfortunately, whilst we wait for the marshals to sort themselves out, we waste laps behind the safety car. And they seem quite reluctant, that marshals, to drag Jelmini's car off the track. Now they're going to give it a shot. And finally, yeah, they are just, with brute force, removing it. It's not very easy though, of course, because with that bent suspension, the front end is going all over the place. Yeah, there we go. That's what's making it pretty difficult, because they can't steer the car. They can't direct it where they want it to go. And so by dragging it, it's simply going where it wants to go, and creating a difficult life for the marshals around there. And now the flatbed truck has decided not to pick up Fernandez's car, and that's gone back to zero, and it might be heading over to the next turn now. So Franco Girolami, 18th position, made up one spot so far, 2 spots. Now, oh gosh, he's going to attempt to do this, but in the gravel trap. That's an interesting one. Let's test the gravel trap. Let's test the brute force of that 4x4. Probably a wise move to cut away at that point, because we might need another tow truck to tow the tow truck out the gravel trap. These tow trucks, they don't have big kind of dirt 4x4 tyres either, like you might see on a Dakar vehicle or in the sands around Spain. They're very much road-going vehicles. Look at that, that's a cool shot. One of the Hyundai's laying some rubber, and then the rest of the field coming along and kind of picking it up onto their tyres. Very cool. So the incident between Felice Jelmini and Tom Coronel is under investigation, but it's certainly not Coronel's fault. And there we go. Now we're just using as much brute force as we can, hoping that we don't blow the clutch on the 4x4 recovery vehicle. Of course, I don't know whether Felice's still in that car. He's now being dragged into the gravel trap, so that's going to make it even harder for the guys to get that car into a safe position. Plenty of tarmac around there. Because, of course, we've got the old Formula One track that before they had the chicane, that's still laid there. And then there's the bike chicane. Yelmini now getting back into the car, I think. Or are we just going to leave it there? Are we going to leave it there? I think we're going to leave it there. Leave it there and cover it under yellow flags. That's going to be a bit of a pain because that's the final chicane. So that's where one of the last real overtaking opportunities in the race. Oh, well, that is disappointing. Anyway, right, that does mean the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. Good crowd, by the way. Always a good crowd at the end of season finale here in Barcelona for the SRO GT Championships. And right, now the time to get the temperature back into the tyres. There is Coronel. Only race he'll do this weekend because he'll be going off back to the Czech Republic tonight alongside Michael Ashkina, who has more and more fingers on that trophy for the championship as we count down the laps. He has not been challenged for half of the race because we've been behind the safety car, and now he will just have half a race to push to use all of those tyres. We've been under the safety car for 13 minutes, and we will have yellow flags covering Felice Yelmini's car into that chicane, so there will be no overtaking at that part of the racetrack. Ashkina, nice and slow. When will he go? When will he start pushing? He's slow going into the chicane. Trying to get a bit of a jump on the guys behind him. He gets very, very simple out of the chicane, onto the throttle, and he's given a good slipstream to the guys behind. It's a nice and tight restart from our top three. Ashkina leads, Teddy Claret and Sami Taufik as we go into the second half of our race here in Barcelona. And Claret with a nice, light, fast Peugeot being towed all the way down the straight. Onto the brakes for the first time. Nobody yet looking. Jimmy Claret down the inside of Leonov. That didn't work out for him, not quite close enough. And Leonov actually has got ahead of his teammate Gavrilov. Remember, 3 cars at Volcano this weekend, with Gavrilov switching from Audi to Cupra. And a very well-behaved restart from the full grid. There is Girolami at the tail end of the field, just 2 cars behind him. Gets into the points, and he needs to get himself up into at least 3rd position if Ashkina doesn't score. If Ashkina stays where he is, then, well, it's game over. Unless Franco can get himself right up there. It's going to be a really, really tall order. Claret up the inside of Leonov at one of the fastest parts of the circuit. That puts Leonov into the gravel. He bounces back onto the circuit, but Gavrilov is going to go past him, as is Viktor Davidovski. And here comes Mato Homola down the inside as well. Yes, that's going to stick, although Leonov's going to try and go all the way around the outside. Oh, Gavrilov's made a mistake. He's gone wide, so he's lost the position for the moment to Davidovski, but Davidovski then loses it back again. Such is the left-right nature of the second half of the lap here in Barcelona. Yellow flags, remember, at this part of the circuit, but green flags, interestingly, into the chicane. So you could line somebody up through the yellow flag sector and then pass into the chicane, as long as you're not overtaking in the yellow sector. all clean at the head of the field, but here comes the recovering Leonov down the inside of Mato Homola. Makes that one work. Tom Coronel's behind these two, so Coronel down in 16th position. And looking to try and find a way past Joachim Galash, but there is no space right now for Coronel. And remember, Coronel fighting for third, or occupying third in the championship right now. The rival to that third position, Nils Langevel, up in 5th position. Coronel for the moment can't find a way through. Behind him is Franco Girolami, who has made a pass on Sylvain Poussier, but still is outside the points. Good bit of squabbling going for the second half of the field. It's quite usual, actually, that our Diamond and Junior drivers in the second half of the field really enjoy a bit of a scrap. Just a little bit late on the brakes for Klim Gavrilov, and Leonov also wide just behind him. So it's going to be side by side further back. And a bit of oversteer again for Gavrilov, so it's all going to be to play for into the braking zone, into the second half of the lap. Gavrilov holds on ahead of Davidovski. Joachim Galash defending. Here comes Girolami to take two. Can he make that one work? Yes, he can. The Argentine has always been incredibly strong under brakes, and he goes past Coronel, and he goes past Leonov, and he gets the line for the next corner as well. Coronel holding a nice tight line there, but there's going to be no space for him, and that looked like a bit of an oversteer moment from Mato Homola further back as well. At the front though, Ashkina, unchallenged, Claire, and then Sami Taufik. Nicolas Bart, 4th, Langevel 5th, Martin Rieber holding on to 6th position ahead of his teammates Isidro Calles and Jack Young, 2 places back from that. So the team owner of Brutal Fish doing a really, really good job. Somebody being a bit wide through turn 2. It's looking very dirty down there. And Ashkina now starting to stretch his advantage, giving himself a little bit of breathing space. Only 5 more laps before he becomes a 2-time TCR Europe champion. And then he can put down this car and head to Zengo Motorsport in Most to try and claim the world title as well. And of course, don't forget that next weekend he'll be racing in WTCR and ETCR, the electric championship, where he has also got a chance to wrap up the championship there. Could he be a 3-time champion in 1 year? That would be absolutely incredible. Good interview actually with Ashkina on our social channels from a couple of races ago. Just getting into his head a little bit, understanding what drives the Spaniard. He's been around for a few years now, but never has he been quite this starring, this bigger part of the show. And this dominant too. I mean, really nobody's been able to touch him all year long. Davidovski with Mato Homola all over him. Davidovski in 12th position, Homola 13th. Homola looking stronger. Might have green flags over at turn 13, remarkably. Could stick your nose down the inside. Interesting that more and more drivers avoiding those sausage curbs in the race. Now, Ashkina's got a turn limit, a track limits warning at turn 9, interestingly, so running a little bit wide. Somebody locking up, going into the first turn, bit of blue smoke being kicked up. Didn't see who that was. I don't think it was too disastrous either. Looks like everyone's got through there without too much of an issue. Oh no, Martin Rieber it is, actually, who was a little bit deep into the turn, and he has lost a position to Isidro Calles. There they are. So change of positions for the 2 Brutal Fish, and Calles ahead of Rieber. Now, do not nerf off your teammate. Actually, Rieber's car looks like it might be smoking a little bit from the underside. Let's have a quick look as he goes through there. Doesn't look too bad there. It just looked a bit odd, didn't it? Let's see if he drops back further, or if he settles into the pace of Spaniard ahead of him. It was incredibly good qualifying Martin Rieber's best result of the season, by the way, is only 10th, and that was in Slovakia. So he's still even on course for a much better result than that. Davidovski still tucked up behind Klim Gavrilov, getting used to this Cupra. Not too dissimilar to the Audi that he's been used to. Same family, same platform, just a different body shell. Slightly different engineering under the suspension components. Hommler looking really good through that part, but can't quite find a way through at the chicane. We'll need to get momentum out of the chicane and perhaps try into turn 1. Seems to be the thing with Matto Hommler. Never has a particularly good qualifying, but by the time he gets to the second half of the race, it seems to go better for him. Mehdi Banani, smoke on the left front tyre. Has he got a puncture again? Or is it a bit of body rub? He loses a position to Jack Young. But that was very odd. Still looks inflated, doesn't he? Very, very dirty through turn 3. But that was odd. Mid-straight, smoke coming from the left front corner of Mehdi Banani. It's not there any longer, but he has lost a position. Banani again a little bit wide, and Jimmy Claret looks up the inside. It's easy for him, but that, I can't see that that's a tyre issue, so maybe a mechanical under the bonnet that's causing that smoke, or a braking issue, because he seems okay here, doesn't he? He's got the momentum here, but then at the end of the straights is where he's losing out, so it could be a brake issue for the Moroccan. Still holds on to half-decent points. 6th in the championship coming into this weekend, and actually quite a distance ahead of Gavrilov. There's that left front tyre. Certainly some understeer, but it's still inflated, so I'm a bit confused with that one. Ashkina over the line, still safe in that lead position. 1.7 is the gap to Claret, and then Taufik 1 second back from that. Nicolas Bart with Longuevel behind him, 5th, doing a really good job. Best of the Hyundai's Langveld. Mehdi Banani behind Jack Young, behind Jimmy Claret, losing 2 spots on that last lap, and he's fading from Claret too. And then here's this great little battle with Davidovski, Hommler, Galash. And Girolami's actually dropped behind Coronel on the last lap. Such unlucky qualifying for Girolami, with a water pump problem, would you believe, in Q1. And that is why he started at the tail of the field. And to be fair, even in practice and in this race, he hasn't looked like he's had the ability to get on to the pace from what we've seen of Ashkina. But at times, and certainly in Monza last time out, Girolami was the star of the show. And let's not forget, this is also his first full European season in competition. Ashkina's been here for 5 years doing this, and so really, we already know the Girolami name. Nestor, a star in the World TCR, and I'm sure you're watching, Nestor. Wish you best of luck in Most, but I'm sad to see that it's not going to work out for Franco. He'll be back next year, no doubt. Really a favourite in the paddock. Great to have him as part of Honda, as part of PSS. Gavrilov still with this queue of cars behind him. Matto Hommler going a bit deep into the first part of the chicane there. That's going to compromise all of this part of the racetrack, and Jakin Galash might find he has an opportunity down into turn 1. Still smoke coming off Banani's car. Still not entirely sure where that smoke's coming from. And just underneath me, Sylvain Lopez comes into the pits. Sorry, Sergio Lopez, not Sylvain Lopez. And so that's another one to add to our retirement list, with Jamandi at the tail of the field, just going past, some 36 back from Ashkanal. That is the performance and the pace of our field. We've seen all of the guys who've come in for a couple of races from the TCR National Championships, and this is exactly what TCR Europe is designed for. It's to bridge that gap between a national championship and the World Championship. And if any of the likes of Sergio Lopez went into the Worlds, it would be a real challenge to be anywhere. But TCR Europe, with a couple of races under your belt on these Hankook tyres, offers you the opportunity to build your experience moving up the ladder. Now Davidovsky looks like the one that's struggling a little more now for this battle, which was for 11th position, but Gavrilov has just slightly checked out. And Jakub Galash has lost the position to Tom Coronel somewhere as well. They thread their way around the chicane. In qualifying, monstering those curves, but in the race, going around them. And Ashkanal moves himself onto the final lap with a 2-second advantage over Teddy Claret, and then Sami Taufik in 3rd position. It all looks pretty settled there, but Ezekiel Callejas is trying to get onto the tail of Nils Langeveld for 5th position. Very, very tight as they came across the line. Look at the tail of the field, nice and spaced out between our front three. And it almost looks pedestrian, doesn't it? Ashkanal absolutely in control. A little chirp from the turbo as he changes down the gears. There is Egidio Callejas, and Callejas has got past Nils Langeveld. So I wondered if that was going to happen, and it has done at the first couple of corners. So a really good recovery drive from Callejas, who's going to put himself into 5th position with that move. And it means that Langeveld misses out 1 point, or not 1 point, 1 position, which is a couple of points, in fact. A nice little drift there from Ashkanal coming through turn 9. Got that car lovely, lovely, lovely rotating, as we saw in Most actually yesterday for qualifying. He's getting that Cooper, the Zengo Cooper, rotating beautifully, and it's happening here as well, just playing around with that rotation. They've lost nearly 2 seconds worth of pace from where they were at the start of the race, such as the degradation on the Hankook tyre, and that's with only half a race worth of pushing. So could be very interesting tomorrow if we get a full race distance to see how the guys cope, especially in the heat of the day. We race a little bit later tomorrow, but today it is championship deciding day, and Mikael Ashkanal has done everything. He's done enough. He's got the pole position, and he's got the full points for race victory in race 1, and Ashkanal is the champion here in Spain. There was no challenge from anybody else. Teddy Claret coming home with a solid 2nd position. Taufik in 3rd spot. And championship rival Franco Girolami dropping to 17th position by the end, and therefore scoring no points. It means that this race becomes a drop score for Franco Girolami, and therefore cements the advantage that Ashkanal has in the points. And it's now unassailable. Ashkanal can celebrate with the team, can jump on the plane knowing one of his 3 title attacks are sorted. Tomorrow we will have a Volcano car on the pole position with Kim Gavrilov starting in 10th. He today finished in 11th position, but had a good defensive drive ahead of Davidovsky, Homolo, Coronel, Galash, Leonov, Girolami. That big battle of cars, which was so entertaining. And Callejas comes past his fellow countryman as the best of our juniors. after a good drive too, and Coronel comes past and congratulates his fellow traveller, because Coronel will also be jumping on the same flight as Ashkana, and I wonder how many celebratory beers can be drunk on that flight to the Czech Republic. They're not racing until lunchtime tomorrow, so I'd say that 1 or 2 is okay. Maybe the adrenaline of the race will put them to sleep anyway. Provisionally then, the result of race 1 here in Barcelona. Ashkana wins by 1.3 seconds over Teddy Claret and Sami Taufik. Nicolas Bart in 4th position. Isidro Calles, the biggest mover of our top 5, in 5th, ahead of Longveld. Martin Rieber, his best result of the season, in 7th spot ahead of his teammate Jack Young. And then Jimmy Claret with a couple of positions elevated from his starting point. 9th, Mehdi Banani with a mysterious smoky car, dropping to 10th position. Gavrilov 11th, Davidovsky, Homela, Coronel, Galash is how the last of the points scorers ended up in that frenetic battle, which was ahead of Leonov, who was part of it for a time. Girolami dropping a position on the last lap to Leonov. Poussier, Jamandi, the last of your finishers. Sergio Lopez retiring 2 laps ago, and then Yelmini and Fernandez causing an early safety car period. Borkovic didn't start, and neither did Colombani. Well, there is Yelmini's car that's still yet to be recovered. Bent suspension after clouting Tom Coronel, not giving the car too much damage. And Coronel's car will sit, much like Ashkana's car tomorrow, in the awning as those two head off for the World Championship. Well, Sami Taufik exits his Hyundai Elantra. It's the equal best result of his season, his 2nd podium, as I said earlier on. A 3rd position in Paul Ricard, and much like last year as well, where he got 3rd position when we raced at Barcelona in race 1. In race 2, Taufik got a 2nd spot, so wonder whether he can repeat that tomorrow. It could be a tall order from 9th on the grid, but here comes the Spaniard. Mikel Ashkana really has been the man to beat all season. Remember, he missed 2 races in Zandvoort, our 3rd meeting. And there's only 2 times in the whole season where Ashkana has not been on the podium. He'll make that a 3rd tomorrow where he goes missing, but he won't be here. Ashkana takes his 6th race victory of the championship, and with it, the championship. Our 2021 champion, Mikel Ashkana. I wonder how difficult that would have been going to a new track that he didn't know. Because, of course, Barcelona, a track he knows well, a car that he knows well, tyres that he's got up to speed with throughout the season. And there is Jaime Puig, the man who has brought Cupra to the TCR Championship, to ETCR, and contracted this young Spaniard into the field. Nicolas Bart congratulates his fellow racer. For so many years, Jordi Genet was the Seat and Cupra man, flying the Spanish flag for a Spanish brand. But you've got to say, it's Mikel Ashkana now, who's been very, very loyal to that Cupra brand, whether it be as a works driver or whether it be as a privateer previously. Let's see if Ashkana has got any emotions coming through his veins after taking his 2nd championship victory.
Mikel Ashkana, TCR Europe Champion 2021. How does that sound?
Wow, amazing, amazing. I mean, 2nd time TCR Europe Champion is the best feeling I have ever felt. It's the biggest category, you know, under the WTCR is the biggest category in touring car. And to be twice European champion is the best feeling, really happy. Very proud of my team, Vulcano Motorsport, Cupra Racing. We did an amazing season with this Cupra Leon competition. It was amazing, very happy, very pleasure, and looking forward to continue. Really, really happy.
You won it in 2018. Does this feel different in any way?
Yes, of course. Always the first time is special. So, of course, I feel really happy at the moment, but you know, the first time in 2018, it was an amazing year also. It was really important for me to go to WTCR the next season. So, at the moment, I just feel happiness at the moment now. It's time to celebrate with my family, with my friends, with all my people.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Vamos, joder, vamos.
Well, here is the highlights of a slightly truncated TCR Europe race. A clean start from Michael Ashkina and Sami Taufik, just losing out in the second phase of that start to drop down to third position. Jalmini down the inside of Matto Homola, makes contact with Tom Coronel, breaks his suspension and steering in the process, and when he gets to the next corner, unfortunately no steering, and into the side of Fabian Fernandez. Into the gravel for him, into retirement for Jalmini, and then it was half a race worth of trying to work out how to get Jalmini's car off the track. When we did eventually restart with just 7 laps remaining, it was a very easy run of things for Michael Ashkina at the head of the field, but further back his teammates were involved in all kinds of fracas. Leonov and Viktor Davidovsky going at it, and eventually Kim Gavrilov behind, crawling his way up through the field. Coronel involved, Jakin Galash involved as well. Mehdi Benani had a bit of a mysterious issue, smoke pouring off the left front of that car, and dropped a couple of positions behind Jack Young. Homola and Galash going at it further for the last scraps of the points, but it was to seal the championship. Ashkina absolutely perfect here on Saturday in Barcelona. Pole position and a race 1 victory, and now the 2021 championship. Onto the podium like he did last year, Sami Taufik, the part Spanish, part Moroccan driver, and really a kind of local driver to this track, although doesn't spend much time in Barcelona. He was born here. Sensibly, Claire has brought his Pommery with him. I think Sami Taufik forgot to pick up his champagne, so he is absolutely going to get soaked if they do decide to do any spraying. Michael Ashkina, though, onto the podium. Not much time to celebrate with the team because he's got to get back onto that plane to get back to Most. But a few moments to soak up the atmosphere here in Barcelona and hear that Spanish national anthem ring out. For him, for Cupra, and for Vulcano Motorsport. All Spanish and all here at home enjoying racing in Barcelona, Catalonia. Also on the podium, best of our junior drivers, best rookie, sorry, Isidro Callas for Brutal Fish. 5th position, and a very good result for him as well. He's got his Pommery too. Now, being race 1, sometimes we don't see them spray it because they want to keep their overalls nice and clean for tomorrow, but we do have quite a big gap, so I reckon you can get them into hotel laundry and get them clean and smelling nice before we go into race 2. Lunchtime is our date for racing. I'll give you the exact time we go racing at 1:45 local time here in Spain, and indeed, the drivers exit, but Michael Askiner can put these overalls in the truck smelling of Pommery, and so team owner and 2021 champion get busy with the Pommery Fizzy. And Askiner coats his very, very hard-working team. They were here at 10:30 last night getting that car prepared. And what a shame that he can't celebrate with the rest of the drivers, but we will go and raise a glass of Estrella to him as he heads off to pastures. Good luck to Michael tomorrow in Most for another assault at the championship, and next weekend as well. But he is our 2021 champion. We'll see you tomorrow for race 2 in Barcelona to sort out the rest of the championship. Bye-bye.